and wasn't helping. So I finally got arrested, and my stomach like erupted in pain, and all they did was give me like antacid pills, and they sent me on my way. A few weeks go by, I'm still complaining about this discomfort and pain. I go and see a doctor. Once again, they give me gas pills. They send me back. No type of examination, nothing like that. And it finally got to a point where I was constipated. I could not eat. I was clammy. I was feverish. Probably for close to 5 days. And once a week in there, they do what's called a sick call. If you have a cold or whatever, you can come out and get a Sudafed and a Tylenol and stuff. So I propped myself out of bed. I was white as a sheet, sweating profusely, and drug myself down the hallway to where this nurse was. The nurse saw me and says, "You need to see a doctor immediately." She then took me down to the doctor. They felt my abdomen. There was a hardened mass in my stomach, in the lower left region. Said, "You need to go to a hospital." I'm thinking, oh great, finally I'm going to get this resolved. So they take me to like a staging area before I'm going to get drove to the hospital. Mind you, we're in Los Angeles. This is during the Los Angeles Lakers playoff games. I was made to wait an extra hour and a half while laying on a table in dire pain before I was transferred to the hospital because the police officers had to finish watching the game. Once I got to the hospital, obviously it was much better because then I was in the hands of medical staff, things like that. But it was no, and that wasn't actually the end of it. They took me to the hospital, and with that hard mass in my stomach, they do some CAT scans. They put me on morphine. As soon as they put me on morphine, I was so exhausted because I hadn't slept in 5 days. I was in such pain. I slept for almost 2 days. They saw that I had an abscess in my stomach about the size of a softball. So they inserted a drainage tube in my stomach and drained it and gave me a bunch of antibiotics. And once it stopped draining, and as opposed to taking any other steps, they removed the drain tube, stopped the antibiotics, and sent me straight back to general population in county jail. And so I think it took about 2 days for that infection just flared back up heavily, and I was on the ground basically weak and unable to move. And so the other people that were around me alerted the police saying, "Hey, this guy's dying." So they transferred me back to the hospital. And so now the infection's back, it's being more stubborn, I'm on all different types of antibiotics. Intravenously, I couldn't eat, I was on intravenous food, the whole 9 yards, till they just couldn't figure it out. They were never able to diagnose us. This is at USC Hospital, so panels of doctors were coming in discussing it. And the thing is, when you're an inmate, because you're in the jail ward, they're not really open with you as if like you were a walk-up patient. So it's like a lot of it, you're just in the dark. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And they kind of just, this guy's a criminal. I really don't want to talk to him very much. And so I'm still sitting there in pain. They've had to reinsert the drain tube in the stomach and all these different antibiotics until they're like, okay, once we get this infection under control, we're going to operate. Oh no, just several things. I had like over 7 CAT scans, a colonoscopy, all these different x-rays. Like, we have to operate because there's something in there causing this infection. So they actually performed surgery on my stomach and removed most of my large intestine. And I'm down there 3 days after surgery. 3 days after having my abdomen cut open. They basically made sure the plumbing was still working. So once I made my own bowel movement and was able to move on my own, they transferred me back to Los Angeles County Jail. Didn't take me to the medical ward. They actually put me into normal inmate intake. And I'm in a hospital gown, and so I was still weak, and I laid down on the floor just because I couldn't walk, and I was just very weak. And one of the cops there started, "You can't lay down," and I pulled my shirt up, and he could see the bruises and staples on my stomach, and he immediately got me a wheelchair and took me straight to the medical ward, which where I should have went the first time. And so all that time I spent in the hospital, I had built up many back court dates, and so the courts wanted me there immediately. So I remember finally getting to bed, finally getting some rest, and 4 a.m. I'm getting woke up saying, "You gotta go to court today." So they wheeled me down in a wheelchair, put me on a bus, And I remember all the bumps on the bus hurting and wincing every time I hit a bump. And I got down county jail and I felt my shirt was wet. And from all the pulling and stressing on my stomach was now bleeding. So as opposed to my court date, they flipped me around, drove me back to county jail. And then the next morning they tried doing that again. And I had to raise the biggest fit. They said, I can't do this. I can't. And so they gave me a week until the staples were removed and then finally sent me back. And that was the extent of that. It was pretty crazy.